Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
And it's 5:06 here on this Friday, coming up on 5:07. Good morning. 30th day of January. This is the last day of January here for our broadcast schedule. When we talk next, it'll be February. It'll be Groundhog Day. We're going to have to come in with the Sonny and Cher song, right?
Groundhog Day already? Oh, my goodness.
Isn't it? Isn't that February 2nd? That'll be Monday. There we go. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in here. It does feel like Groundhog Day when you look out the window and see that the snow is still there and it's still in the roads and the lanes haven't been cleared anymore, or at least it doesn't seem to be. The D.C. reaction to the snowstorm is now national and international news, as there's something broken here in the way this government is responding to this storm. And we've been sympathetic all week, but we started to raise some questions yesterday, and those questions were echoed throughout the day for people who live and work in the District of Columbia. How is it other cities very close to us seem to have had their stuff together?
Oh, yeah.
And D.C. doesn't. That's become a big issue, and we're going to get into that this morning. Also at 6:35, Tommy Schultz of the American Federation for Children. They've got a new scholarship fund helping families get their kids into schools, so we'll talk about that. Also at 7:05, Dr. Kurt Michelli, as the Chief Medical Officer for Do No Harm. We'll talk about some of the things going on in Virginia right now, and what they want to do teaching nurses about bias in how they carry out their jobs. And the crazy nurse that we saw out of Virginia Commonwealth University saying, let's poison ICE agents. At 7:35, Nathan Brinkman, talk about School Choice Week. 8:05, author Brad Thor's got a new book. Hold on, it's not the middle of summer. What's he doing with the new book out? All right, we'll get to the bottom of that. And then at 8:35, Steve Moore talking about a pick for the Fed today. It's been long anticipated who the new chair of the Fed will be. I just assumed it would be Kevin Hassett, the chief economic advisor to the president, but who knows? Maybe he'll pull a rabbit out of his hat. Steve Moore will know. Maybe it'll be Steve Moore. We'll talk about that. It's Larry O'Connor. Maybe it'll be Patrice Onwuka. Are you ready to be the chairwoman of the Fed, Patrice?
That is no. That would be a great honor, but no.
Understood. Good morning, Patrice.
And happy Friday, Larry, by the way.
Is it your children?
Well, we're going to try and find some joy, Larry. We will.
I would like to know how your week has been with your children at home, because you are not in the DC public schools reopened yesterday. A couple of districts, but yours did not. The kids have had a vacation all week long. And
it's been wonderful for them. Yes, Prince George's County has canceled school through today, and they've told us that there will be a 2-hour delay in opening on Monday, but to be determined, to be confirmed on Sunday night. So, potentially they may still have more days off from school. Listen, I think that was the wisest decision the county could make. We ventured out last night to grab some dinner, and the roads are horrendous. They are ridiculous. And I'm not talking about the side roads, the secondary roads, the tertiary roads. I'm talking about 197, if anybody drives through Bowie. It's a major thoroughway that connects a lot of different parts of Bowie and heads right into a shopping center. They plowed 2 of 4 lanes. So the right turning lanes and the second lane to the right are full of ice. You can't traverse them. And at 7 o'clock last night, I thought there was an accident on the road because it was so backed up. Turns out it's the incompetence of the people who are moving the snow to at least clear a third lane of 4. No, and because the snow is frozen over, it is solid ice, and so there is no moving that snow. That's just going to have to melt. It is just ridiculous. So the kids needed to be at home this week.
So some people will say it's incompetence. Some people will say that this is just the way, sadly, the roads are designed here, that there was no place to put that snow. Some people will say that this was just poor planning, not by the people who are responsible for actually driving the trucks, but by those who set out the routes and told them and gave them their marching orders about where they should go. It needs to be determined. We need to have a full sort of autopsy on this or post-mortem once they finish the job. But my goodness, the pictures out of D.C. Now, you're in Prince George's County. Now, I live near you, but I'm in Anne Arundel County.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, it's not that bad. I mean,
that's good.
50, by the major thoroughfares, Route 50 and 495, of course, and 395 looked okay. You know, all of the major, like the interstate stuff, that those have been cleared. And it took them until about, Tuesday evening, Wednesday midday to get that done. And again, grace was extended. There's a lot of snow, interstates. But now you look at some of these other major thoroughfare off of 50 that I use to get to my home in Anne Arundel County. Absolutely normal. All the lanes are open.
Really?
All
That's
of them,
wonderful.
Yeah. I was driving around yesterday. When you get in it, I had to venture into downtown Annapolis, which it's funny. They were complaining and explaining that D.C., it was impossible to clear the roads properly in D.C. because the roads are very narrow and there's a lot of twists and turns in the way the city is designed. There aren't any places for the snow. Annapolis is designed in the same way. In fact, D.C.'s design was based on downtown Annapolis. Annapolis is even tighter and more narrow, and it seems you can get around.
And you have the cobblestones.
Right. And I think you can get around. I mean, I don't know. I'll tell you, I was supposed to go to D.C. last night. I was supposed to see the premiere of the Melania movie. I was very excited to go. We ended up calling it off. Partly, it was going to be a late night already, but I can do late nights if I know ahead of time and I can plan because I need to be here bright and early and as energetic,
full of vigor
of vigor as I am right now at 5 a.m. But we realized we were going to be getting home late. We were going to be driving in those conditions. Again, once you get off the interstate and you're driving in the city, there's no telling if you were, what kind of jam-ups we were going to have, how dangerous it was going to be. The pictures I was seeing all afternoon yesterday, and knowing how late we were going to be coming back in the dark, we called it. We said, no, we're not going to do this. And I bet a lot of people are doing that right now with their plans and trying to get around. I saw it. Well, we've got to here. I've got a video here.
Okay.
Brooke Pinto. She's one of the council members. Now, they're all trying to get out there and get ahead of this politically and try to explain all the reasons why they haven't been able to clean up from the snow. And they're saying, well, there's something extraordinary about this because of, as we mentioned yesterday, snowcrete and the way it's solidified. And their vehicles are not designed to do this. So go ahead and listen to Councilwoman Brooke Pinto explain it. Oh, hold on. I've got it for you. And while you're listening to this, I want you to just examine the fact that other cities that are not too far away from us, that have very similar conditions here, right? I'm talking about Baltimore, Philadelphia. You're not seeing these stories coming out of those areas, and they had almost exactly the same conditions.
If not more.
I just left a briefing with the executive and our emergency workers around snow removal and wanted to provide an update on where we are. So there are 280 new plows that are working now to move snow, especially on side and residential streets, with supervisors double checking those routes. There are also now 90 dump trucks that are picking up physically the snow that's on the side of the street and moving it to a parking lot at RFK. There are crews that are prioritizing our public safety related buildings, government buildings, our shelters. There are additional warming buses that have been put in place at MLK Library and Union Station. And so the hope is that with additional salting on the ice, we can get rid of some of that ice while it's sunny. There have been 50 new snow heroes that signed up overnight to volunteer to help neighbors shovel their sidewalks out and help with some of the sidewalk. A decision's not going to be made around our schools until 5 o'clock tonight for opening for tomorrow.
All right. So now just understand something. And this was the evening of the 28th, afternoon of the 28th. They did make the decision, by the way, to open schools yesterday on a delayed fashion. I don't know if that was a good idea, frankly, because of the added volume. But by the time you get 30 seconds into it, you're talking about volunteers who are coming in to help dig people out.
The Snow Heroes program,
And you heard about the new equipment that they're bringing in to get this done. In other words, they didn't have the right equipment to get this taken care of. And one wonders if the equipment that they had would have been sufficient had they approached this differently with different timing before everything could solidify and sort of bond to the concrete. More on this and a lot of observations being made that something is broken in the emergency response to this snow at the District of Columbia level. We'll get to that in a moment.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So let's say you decided to take Metro in, which is, delayed quite a bit as well, but you take Metro into the city so that you can not add to the congestion, but you have to get around and you need to walk. Well, none of the crosswalks are cleared. When you venture off of a sidewalk that maybe just has, one human's width of a lane for you to be able to walk in without ice, you have to venture out into the street, which still has ice. So you're walking off the sidewalk onto ice, and once you get to the actual crosswalk in the street, it's only the width of one car lane for you to be walk on actual pavement, and then you're trudging onto the ice. I saw photographs like that from downtown, and we're talking about not off the beaten path parts of Washington, D.C. You also heard in Brooke Pinto, the council member yesterday, putting this video out. You heard her talk about how there's hope that putting salt on these ice mounds when the sun comes out will actually make a difference because, and yes, the sun helps with the chemical reaction. But with the
freezing temperatures, and not just like hovering near freezing, it's teens.
The best you're going to do is get up to 20, 25 degrees. That ain't going to do much. So it's like they're expecting it to get over 40 again, and then that's when they can, move this icing. But so they're not actually going to get anything done until that point. And they're only now deploying heavy equipment to get out there where other cities had that heavy equipment. You need to know going into this storm, they were sort of bragging. If you go to the website that focuses on what the city's preparations are, it's still up there. It says we've got over 800 members of the D.C. snow team, including plow drivers and technology experts, mechanics, and quality control safety administrative personnel. I'd love to know how many of those people are also part of the DEI training and sexual harassment program in the division. They have 447 pieces of snow removal equipment. Now, that's a big number and for a relatively small city, square mileage-wise, but they couldn't get it done. And the bottom line here, and I'll let you go, Patrice, on this, but I think this is what happens when you have one-party dominant rule, and there's never ever a fear. This has been a tale as old as time here in D.C., certainly since I've been reporting on it, with the failures of Metro and the failures of the snow removal, failures of killing the rats, failures of getting garbage picked up. Every single elected official in this city knows that they will never lose their job unless it's in the Democrat primary. Unless it's in the Democrat primary, and the Democrat Party has, they pretty much locked it all in. They know that they can be incompetent on basics that happen in any other city, and they won't lose their job, and that's why this always seems to happen in Washington. And by the way, it's also why they should never be allowed to be a state.
Let me just give you some comparison. Boston has 900 pieces of equipment, including city-owned plows, about 170 to maybe 300 plows, and then 800 additional private contractors for larger severe storms. If D.C. has the kind of equipment that's on par with Boston, and I grew up in Boston, so I know Boston knows how to handle snow removal. It tells you something that it's not about the amount of equipment. It is about the actual protocols. It's about how do you plan and how do you do phases of removal. Hey, I can understand you only clear one, maybe two lanes the first day of the snowstorm or the first day after. 5 days after, you've got to have a plan for continually ensuring that you're reopening more of these thoroughways. And so, you know what? These D.C. council members, the city leadership, everyone involved, we need to hold them accountable, but also they need to get their act together. Sit down with a city like D.C., sit down with Philadelphia, ask them what works, how they have gotten it done. And I'm sure you don't need as much as much equipment, or you don't need the same level of protocols that Boston has, which gets this kind of snow on a regular basis. But at least learn some lessons. And sadly, Larry, I don't trust them enough to be able to have the humility to go to someone else and seek wise counsel, so that they know so that they can plan accordingly for the future. That's the saddest part.
Well, you make a good point is that they're always going to say, well, but you can't compare us to Boston and Buffalo. We don't get that kind of snow. Okay, well, you get it at least once every 10 years, if not a little bit more often than that. How often is often enough? Is that really going to be the excuse every single time this happens? Because
that's right. That's no
you're
excuse
right.
at all.
You're not Boston. You're not Buffalo. But guess what? Buffalo isn't the capital of our country.
That's
the
right.
capital doesn't have to make sure that congressmen and people in the military and the president and the executive branch can get around and function. And then we mentioned this yesterday. The D.C. has a snowplow tracker app that they said yesterday, but that's not working. We have a snowplow tracker app, and it's not working. But I gotta question that. Are we sure that it's not working? I mean, it is.
Did they just shut it off?
You can go to it. No, you can see snowplows. The reason that they said it wasn't working was because people were saying, I'm looking at the app, and I'm only seeing like 20 or 30 snowplows in the city. Where the hell is everybody? I thought you had 447 plows. I thought you were ready to go, and I'm only seeing 25 or 30 plows out there. And the response was, oh, the app isn't working. Yeah, okay, maybe the app isn't working, or maybe you're not working. Maybe that's the real problem here. It's 5:24.
All right. Will it shut down or won't it shut down? We've been on government shutdown watch for all week long, and we thought there was hope with the deal last night, but not so fast. Stay with us. We'll give you an update. It's O'Connor and Company at 5:30.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37. Good morning. Thanks for tuning into O'Connor and Company. This Friday, this 30th day of January, much to get to here if you can get out of the snow. Coming up at 6:35, Tommy Schultz, American Federation for Children, on a new scholarship fund for kids to get to school. 7:05, Dr. Kurt Michelli from Do No Harm, talk about what nurses are being trained to do in Virginia based on a brand new bill. Also 7:35, Nathan Brinkman from Ed Reform, talk about School Choice Week. 8:05, Brad Thor's got a new book. And 8:35, Steve Moore will talk about rumblings about a new Fed chair. President Trump on the red carpet last night at the TKC, that's what the kids are calling the Trump Kennedy Center. At the TKC said he'll be announcing a new Fed chair this morning. Suddenly everyone's looking at this guy named Warsh.
Yes.
Warsh. Got to go out and
the Wall Street Journal has some. That's their prediction. He's their prediction.
That's what everybody's saying. And interestingly, Kevin Warsh. He's got a lot of choices named Kevin. Kevin Warsh is very, very Bitcoin friendly. Very, very Bitcoin friendly. Which, if you know this administration and this family, they are very into crypto. And Bitcoin's been having a tough time over the last 6 months, I think. And so maybe this is meant to bolster the cryptocurrency markets and such. Don't know. It'll be interesting to have a Fed chair who is so into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, considering their main job is to sort of, try to shore up America's legitimate actual currency. Not that crypto is illegitimate. I'm just saying it's an interesting.
Well, the good thing is the dollar is trading higher today. Well, and the dollar's value is up a little bit overnight. So, I mean, we can use that dollar can use some help.
Let's see what happens. Steve Moore will talk about that at 8:35 with us. Now, are we going to have a government shutdown? You're getting mixed messages right now. It looks like the Senate emerged with a deal with the administration, basically separating out what had been holding things up was funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Even though there is no real funding for ICE in this DA, there's a little bit, but ICE is funded in terms of its current operations through 29, I believe, right? But they're still holding up this funding, the Democrats are, to try to exact some sort of, political gain and maybe even some policy changes. They want ICE to stop wearing masks. That's not going to happen. They want ICE to have to get a judicial warrant. That's not going to happen. They've said that they want ICE to wear body cameras. That might happen, actually, because Republicans don't really shy away from body cams. They're like, sure, great. Every time a video comes out, 3 days after a big outrage involving law enforcement, the video seems to back up law enforcement. So Republicans should be fine with that. That said, there's still sticking points in the DHS thing, and Democrats are seeing
Yes.
political gain from holding it up. So what they've agreed to do, it appears, is to break out the DHS funding as standalone, and the other last remaining 5 appropriations bills that the House has already passed are then going to get voted on. So there could be a mini shutdown in certain parts of the Department of Homeland Security that are relying on new funding in this bill, but much of it is already funded. That's what it appears to be from my perspective. Now, there is also a sticking point, Patrice, that you've looked at. This has to do with Lindsey Graham concerned about something that the Senate had put into these appropriations bill having to do with certain senators' ability to sue if they are spied on by the executive branch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. His concern is that when the House put into this bill, this package, a reversal of that ability for senators to get a payout if they're spied on, if their phones, for example, are spied on. He said, no, I want this out. And so he's kind of led the charge. He said every U.S. senator who's ever been targeted in this way should not vote for this bill for this very reason. So that was and I think that's probably the biggest sticking point. We did see some other Republican senators also voted during last night's procedural vote against the bill. Ashley Moody, for example, Rick Scott from Florida also. Their concern was more about the funding levels, and you know, so. Right. I think they can probably overcome their funding level issues. Maybe Rand Paul not so much, but for the procedural vote, you need 60 votes. And so that means you need some Democrats to come alongside, maybe some Fettermans, a few of those other Democrats. It would be nice to have all 52 Republicans or 53, whatever it is, Republicans. But we'll see what happens today.
They lost 7 Republicans altogether. And the question
and
is,
Senator Thune also voted against it, not on
that was for
on a process
standpoint.
Reasons. Exactly, so that he could bring the bill back up. From what I'm seeing in reporting in CNN and Politico, they're expecting to try to vote again this morning, so we'll see what happens.
Do we know if Lindsey Graham's objection about that one? Because frankly, listen, senators want to sue the FBI for spying on them. This all comes from the Arctic Frost investigation from Jack Smith that ended up, gathering phone records. I get that. Senator Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz are very upset. They want to be able to have a threat of a lawsuit. Fine, good, okay. Yeah. What about us? If they do it to us, are we allowed to sue too? I don't think so, and that's why I think a lot of
that would bankrupt the government.
Right. So a lot of House Republicans are like, okay, we're angry, we're upset that they did that to you too. They did it to us, but why does only this special little class of people, elected officials in Congress, get to sue the executive branch if they're surveilled for an investigation and not everyday American citizens? I'd love to have Lindsey Graham on the show to explain that to us, but he doesn't always like hard questions, sadly. Anyway, we'll see. If the indications that I'm seeing here is that this will be overcome, and they are going to basically get everything else voted on, and just this DHS thing will be negotiated and debated and discussed, which should mean that, yes, it'll be sort of a mini shutdown sort of for some people in the Department of Homeland Security's whose
but very
programs
small,
are not
very
fully
marginal
funded
impact.
Right now. If I could pause for a second here, I can't remember the last time we had all the appropriations bills passed by the House, put forth, voted on in this. And again, not a big omnibus spending package where everything's loaded into one giant bill. Yeah. Right? I mean, somehow House Speaker Johnson, and you might not like all these appropriations bill, but he got him through with this. Am I wrong in marveling at the fact that all 12 appropriations bills have been done?
You are 100% right, Larry. You have telepathy today, because that's what I wanted to hit on, which is that I believe 2017, I could be wrong on that, or even further back, it has been a long time since we have seen funding bills passed through regular order, meaning that you actually see every single 12 appropriations committees in the House and the Senate pass funding bills rather than all these cobbled together, continuing resolutions and all of that. That is Congress doing its job. What we always say, why won't Congress do its job? Now, we can quibble over the funding levels. Maybe it should be $200 billion less or more. That's secondary to the larger issue of actually Congress showing functionality, not dysfunction.
Yeah, I agree. And again, and by the way, it's a lot easier to quibble over what's in these appropriations bills when there's 12 separate ones. They get debated separately, marked up separately, talked about separately. When it's always one giant omnibus package where everything's put into a $50,000 bill, and it's just ridiculous. And then they just vote on it. Just vote on it. It's like, I don't know what's in there. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're going to have a shutdown. You have to vote on it. This brings us back to close to normalcy. And I know we're all excited. We're all thrilled. And Johnson should get credit for doing something that his predecessors were incapable of doing. That said, yeah, you're right, Patrice. Hit the pause button. We're all excited and marveling at the fact that Congress did the bare minimum of what they're supposed to do. 40 miles is the difference between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., so I know weather conditions are a little different. But just if you have time today at some point when you're stuck in traffic, and you're not moving in Washington, just do a quick search. You can use any search engine. You can use an artificial intelligence module. You can just say, how are the road conditions in Baltimore after the storm? And then ask, how are the road conditions in Washington, D.C. after the storm? And you'll see the very, very divergent answers you're going to get. Earlier this week, we had a lot of calls for Kristi Noem to be fired or for her to resign from her position over the events in Minnesota. And the crux of it seems to be that she got out in front of the shooting of Alex Preddy and had quite a bit of somewhat rhetorically what's the best way to put it? She described the situation a little bit beyond what the facts at hand dictated. With regard to
coloring.
I understand the instinct to say this guy was a terrorist, this guy had a gun, this guy was going to shoot as many. You want to protect your agents on the ground, and but at the same time, when you're the Secretary of Homeland Security, it's always best to be circumspect and just wait for all the facts to come in. There was a lot of finger pointing between Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski, Stephen Miller, CBP, all these other things. Kristi Noem yesterday did say her response to the Preddy shooting may have been wrong, admitting that there was some misinformation that went up the chain there. And listen, I was asked about this on another show politically, and again, not what I think should happen, but just with the way the political winds are blowing. I do think Kristi Noem is in trouble as Secretary of Homeland Security. I don't think anything's going to happen right now because Trump hates responding to the mob, but I think they'll work something out over the course of the next several months, and she'll probably be stepping down and moving on. Also because Tom Homan yesterday in his press conference, it was such a stark contrast in terms of his ability to sort of bring some calm to this without, in any way dampening the administration's position on their policy of deportation of criminal illegal immigrants. What's interesting to me is that there are Republicans who are saying that Kristi Noem should step in. Again, I'm just giving you my political analysis and my prediction of what will happen. I don't think she deserves to be fired or anything. But you had Tom Tillis, the senator from Tennessee. Is he from Tennessee? No, Tom Tillis is
North
from
Carolina.
Thank you. Tom Tillis out there saying that she needs to step down, that she needs to quit, she needs to be fired. Kristi Noem. I did an extensive search. I don't see at one moment Senator Tom Tillis, Republican, calling for Alejandro Mayorkas to be fired or step down after 4 years of open border chaos and outright lies about the border. And Tom Tillis couldn't bring himself to say that Alejandro Mayorkas should be fired, but suddenly here's a Republican saying Kristi Noem should be fired. How hypocritical are these Republicans who are not standing by her?
Yeah, tag in his friend Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. These are the two who are the most vocal. Tom Tillis is definitely not a Trump supporter. He's been critical of everything the administration has done. And so I think he's not running for re-election, if I'm not wrong. I might be, but I think so. But in any case, these two are so far the most vocal. Maybe you'll have one or two others who might join in. But I agree with you, Larry, when it comes to Kristi Noem. I mean, she has a pretty good track record here so far of what she's done. When you look at the 2 million self-deportations, these are people who took up the offer, which was a pretty innovative offer. We'll give you a plane ticket. We'll give you $1,000. Go back home, and then you can come and join the line and come in maybe one day in the future.
Yeah.
The right
Very
way.
Successful program.
Exactly. So that's been successful. The reunification of finding and reunifying tens of thousands of children who disappeared across the southern border during the Biden administration. That's something else that she can notch under her box. Yeah. I mean, her belt. I think the challenge is you have someone who is definitely media savvy, and who wanted to present, kind of to own the narrative. I think I said this yesterday. Own the narrative before the media own the narrative on the story of Alex Peretti, and sometimes that can be being first versus being correct are not always working in tandem. And and so, right. And I think the apology comes a little late. It probably should have come a couple of days or sooner than now. But I think she's safe for now. She's just not going to be the face. And I do and I watched Tom Homan's I know we'll probably play some of it, but Tom Homan was great. That steady hand is what you need right now to calm tensions.
Yeah, just to be clear, she did not apologize. She just said she may have been wrong, which is not the same thing. The problem with having a high-profile media presence, which Kristi Noem has had, including, being in uniform with ICE agents on the job with a firearm and with the flak jacket, and it looks really cool and looks real badass. The problem is when something goes awry and they have this video of you doing that, you run the risk of looking foolish. And I think that is where she is dangerously treading close to here, and the president isn't going to stand for that. But I, again, want to bring the focus back to these Republicans. Here's Senator Thom Tillis yesterday asked about this.
I think that what she's done in Minnesota should be disqualifying. She should be out of the job. And I mean, really, it's just amateurish.
Wait, hold on, Senator Tillis. Hold on a second there. What she has done in Minnesota is disqualifying, and I think what do you mean? You mean the apprehension and deportation of all of the criminals that Minnesota was letting roam the street? Is that what you're calling is disqualifying? No, she's calling about the deaths of the two people, which, by the way, I mean, at the very least, it appears that Renee Good, the agent involved in that one, acted in defense with the car barreling toward him, and we're still learning much more about Alex Peretti. But do you remember Thom Tillis after the rape and murder of Lake and Riley at the hands of a murderer that was allowed in during Alejandro Mayorkas' time as Secretary of Homeland Security? Do you remember him getting in front of a microphone and a camera saying that what Mayorkas had done was disqualifying? And that he was an amateur? Because I don't know.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that at all. If you want to compare the last Homeland Security Secretary and Kristi Noem, I'll take Kristi Noem any day of the week. It's 5:54.